Sorry about my last video. Kind of like run out of time of what I was going to say. I started off. I'm going to start where I dropped off in my last video because like I just literally my video cut off 10 minutes was up. So basically, Marcion taught that Christ was a sudden savior who descended from the heavens from the form of the fully mature human. Snatched the believers from the bondage of the law. It sounds like kind of rapture. Do you know what I mean? Because it sounds like, I would say Jesus is the entity that descended from the heavens in the form of a fully mature human. They took on the form of mature human being. Apparently he snatched the believers from the bondage of the law. What was the law? The law of Moses, the law of the Judaizers, which are really the laws of Romans. And then he sent it back to heaven. That sounds like kind of a spiritual rapture, being snatching the believers from the bondage of the law, and then he sent it back to heaven. In other words, if you're born of the Spirit of Christ within, you wouldn't need the Old Testament law. Jesus descended out of heaven to dwell in the embodiment of the human person. Alright. And then he ascended back to heaven, so it says, like, he was not the Messiah of the Jewish expectation. Marcion and his followers did not subject themselves to the Torah nor any of the Jewish practice. Marcion's testamentum did not in any way tie into the prophecies of the Hebrew Bible to Christ or to be the church and its teachings. So in other words, it has nothing to do with the Old Testament whatsoever. Marcion held that the deity depicted in the Hebrew Bible was an inconsistent, jealous, wrathful, genocidal, and woefully incompatible with the teachings of Jesus. Which is somewhat true, because if you read horrendous stuff like he did in the Old Testament, Yahweh being the beast, that shows you who the Antichrist is. Any reference to the Hebrew Bible in the Testament are simply didatic. You can cite something and use it as a point of reference without believing it is divinely inspired. Alright? Further, you can recognize there are some ethical, moral, and historical teachings from the book while not believing that book is divinely inspired. In cases where Jesus and Paul make reference to the Hebrew Bible or the Septuagint Bible, whatever, because they did quote from the Septuagint Bible according to the canonized scriptures. Alright? It is either a refute it or to show where it holds some truths. Okay? Not all. The people who Jesus preached were largely Jewish. Thus, referring the Hebrew Bible was a useful way to convey ideas and teachings in a way that quotes people would readably understand to relate to. Alright? So that's Marcion bit about rejection of the Hebrew Bible. Inferiorist, anti-atheists says, according to Maricon, God did not had any previous interactions with the world before Christ or Jesus the Good, and was willfully unknown. The God of this world might have, but not the true divine spirit, had no previous interactions with the world before Christ or Jesus the Good, was willfully unknown. He wrote a work now lost entitled Antithesis, in which he constructed the Hebrew Bible with Christianity, the God of the one with the deity of the other, the law with the gospel. He represented Christianity as a new system, abrogating the old, and as entirely disconnected from it, which is rightly so. Maricon's thinking perspective shows the influence of the Hellenistic, which is Greek philosophy, on Christianity, or Gnosticism, and presents a moral critique of the Hebrew Bible from the standpoint of Platonism. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. The Old Testament and New Testament, Marcion argued, cannot be reconciled with each other, which is true. The code conduct advocated by Moses was an eye for an eye, but Jesus set this perspective aside. Marcion pointed to Isaiah, I spoke peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. He contrasted this with the Jesus saying that Jesus stated, a tree is known by its fruit, and a good tree cannot bear forth evil fruit, nor can the evil crop tree bear forth good fruit. And then this points us to several injunctions and the lessons of the Old Testament that the New Testament contradicts, okay, which is true. For example, Elisha had children eaten by bears. Jesus says, let the little children come to me. Joshua had the sun stop along for the slaughter of his enemies. Paul quoted Jesus as commanding, let not the sun go down upon your wrath. In the Old Testament, divorce was permitted, and was polygamy. Alright, so that's what it says here. And in the New Testament, neither is allowed. Moses enforced the Jewish law and the Jewish Sabbath. Jesus Jesus demystified both. He, in other words, de-institutionalized both. Disregarded it, which is fair enough. Even within the Hebrew Bible, Marcion found contradictions, which is very true. The Hebrew Bible deity commanded that no work should be done on the Sabbath day, yet the Israelites carried the ark covenant around the Jericho seven times upon the Sabbath. So there's loads of contradictions in the Old Testament. I'll go on to my next video in my next day or something. So much to be. Namaste. See you later.